and welcome to the Positively Joy podcast. We have an amazing guest on today. It's William Miller, who is the author of several books about my favorite subject, and that's our wonderful four-footed creatures. I will say dogs because I do have cats as well.
I won't hold that against you.
That's right. But he came out with a new book at the end of last year called The Hallelujah Tales. And I stumble over it a little bit myself because I laugh every time I say it. But welcome to the podcast, Father Bill.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I had trouble saying that word too, but my dog Willie was kind enough to work with me on that. We called it the last Hallelujah tour, and so as a priest and as a dog lover, the word Hallelujah just made all the sense in the world to us.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I do want to say the complete name of the book. It's The Last Hallelujah. It's Tales from the Trail. And you just mentioned Willie. So you have 6 dogs, but last year you lost your wonderful Willie. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about Willie and his very unusual name.
Yes, he did have an unusual name. Every dog is awesome. And let's just begin with that observation because it's true. And they're all wonderful. But I think sometimes a dog comes into our life who is just that one in a million dog. And Willie was that dog for me. I met him on the island of Kauai. I was blessed to live in paradise for almost 10 years. And when I moved there from Texas, and I really didn't know anyone. I had taken a church job there and, left my family and friends back behind. And my veterinarian and her husband from Texas came to visit. And we went to the Humane Society there because it's a beautiful place. The animals on the island call it a 5-paw resort, actually. It's that nice. Mountain views, not far from the ocean. And we went to look at the critters, and there was this one just joyful, loving, enthusiastic, exuberant beast in the back, and we took him out and played with him, and my vet examined him and pronounced him psychologically sound and physically healthy. And so I named him as a sort of combination. I grew up in Texas, and I'm a big fan of music. And then living on the island of Kauai, the harbor where the ships come in is called Na Willie Willie Harbor. It's named after the Willie Willie tree. And so the Humane Society is very close to Na Willie Willie Harbor, where I met Willie, and I named him Na Willie Willie Nelson. So combining my Texas roots and my new Hawaii home. And I usually just called him Willie, but when I would mention his full name, it would typically get a laugh.
Yeah. Well, you feature Willie prominently in the book, as well as many of your other dogs, but you feature Willie on the cover. And Willie he's wearing some unusual clothing. He is wearing what appears to be the combination of priestly vestments and Hawaiian garb. And I do want to mention that, Father Bill, you're an Episcopal priest.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about why Willie is depicted as such.
Well, a lot of people called him and still call him Saint Willie of Worcester. And he was just that kind of dog. He was just filled with pure, unconditional love. And I'm surrounded here. I live near New Orleans, and I'm surrounded by wonderfully creative people. And one of those is a woman whose name is Diana Branton. And she really loved Willie and loved the Hallelujah Tour and wanted to design the cover, which is a saint's devotional candle is really how it's designed. And that's Willie's beautiful face, and of course the radiance just emanating from his being. And yes, he's wearing a traditional saint's garb, liturgical garb, with the added Hawaiian lei, because he was from the island of Kauai, the Garden Island. And in fact, he would often wear a lei, either a flower lei or a kukui nut lei, when we were out on tour, and he really seemed to enjoy that.
Wow. He's, I could be wrong, but he even appears to be holding his hands in kind of a, I don't know, religious gesture.
Yes, I think he's offering his blessing.
Excuse me. His pause. We should get that straight.
That's right. That's right. Yes, he is. He's definitely offering a blessing with his paw, and uh, I'm not sure I ever saw him literally do that, but he certainly spiritually did that wherever we went together, and he was a blessing to so many people. And so I wanted to capture our journey together and his really extraordinary story.
So let's get down to the bottom line. So you are a Episcopal priest and you love dogs. We know that. And you talk a lot about dogs and God in the new book. Often they're in the same sentence, and we all know what God spelled backwards is.
Yes.
So um here's a big question. Are there dogs in heaven?
I believe they are, because I mean, I haven't experienced the afterlife, so I can't speak with any certainty. But I do believe that heaven is the best possible experience. And when I imagine the best possible experience, I imagine being in communion with those that I love and with God, who is pure love. And I like to say that dogs are God's best work, because they're truly ambassadors for unconditional love, for just extraordinary joy in everything, curiosity, forgiveness. I mean, all of those qualities that we humans desire to have, but we're just not quite there.
No, no, definitely not. I mean, yeah, a lot of what you're pitching, I'm receiving because I've had a lot of dogs in my life. My sister has a golden retriever puppy now named Agape,
Oh, I love it. I love it.
which means unconditional love.
Right.
And um and I have long, I think, felt the way that you do. There is a Twilight Zone episode, and you may know the one I'm talking about, where an old man goes hunting and he dies during the hunt. He wakes up and his dog is with him, his faithful hunting dog, and they're walking along and they get to a gate. And so the man is welcomed in, but the dog is not. So the man, tells who we believe to be St. Peter, nope, listen, if my dog can't come in, I'm not coming. So they keep walking down a road, and they get to another gate, and it's another person, and he's welcomed in, and the dog is too. And so the old man says, well, a ways down, I could not, bring my dog in to heaven, right? And he was like, "Oh, you didn't talk to that guy, did you?" And he said, "Well, yeah." He says, "You know what? That guy's always trying to get people to go in that place, which means actually that was hell, not heaven."
Right.
But he said, "But one thing, and I'm gonna mess the phrase up, but it's something like, a man will stumble his way into hell, but even a dog will know that that he'll know the gates of hell, which is,
Right.
I love that idea about you wanting to bring your best friend with you, and that your best friend will be received with you, and it was a silly question that I asked you, and I don't know if we'll see that loved one, but um we know that they are such creatures of comfort and love, and the Father has given them to us, and so I think that's why
Yeah.
we hope that's true anyway, right?
We do, and I just, I can't imagine a place of pure love and joy and bliss without them. And I
Hmm.
think it was Mark Twain who said, "If dogs don't go to heaven, I want to go where they go." So it's going to be a pretty good place, that's for sure. But you just, for me, I really, I think it was Thomas Merton who said that his dog was his spiritual director, and if he really wanted to connect with God, he just hung out with his dog and paid close attention. And I feel that way. I just feel closest to God.
Hmm.
and completely enveloped and surrounded with pure unconditional love when I'm in the midst of my blessed beasts.
Yes. Now, one line that I really love in the book, and you use it a few times, is God and dog is love.
Mhm.
What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so I think that there are a lot of competing ideas these days for what spirituality means, what religion means, what God means. And I just don't think we can summarize what God is any better than adding a dog to the sentence and adding love to the sentence. And we know that God is love. The scriptures tell us plainly. And I think with our dogs, we experience that in its
Mhm.
purest form. Yeah.
Now, have you gotten any pushback from, from referring to God and dog like in the same sentence, or I don't believe that you're saying a dog is God. I don't believe you're saying that, but that the love that is generated is the same the way that we can feel it as mankind. But have you gotten any pushback from people who just, that doesn't sit well with them, or the fact that maybe you have them on the cover in priestly vestments?
You're right. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I'm a little bit unique, I think, in my approach to spirituality because my writing is I think it's authentic and real and earthy and honest and straightforward and kind of what you see is what you get, but it's also filled with humor. And I think that's rare for religious writing or spiritual writing to contain humor. And so I think those that see a disconnect there from being real and authentic and just telling the truth, and those who don't have an animal and maybe don't quite get it, they're probably not going to read what I'm writing anyway. And there are always going to be critics out there. You're just never going to bat 1,000.
Hmm.
And I learned that long, long ago. And you just have to be true to yourself and to your truth, as you've experienced it. I know that I am not perfect and I do not have perfect knowledge, but I know that the stories that I share are powerful for people and they're inspiring and they do communicate, I think, God's love and God's blessing. So you just keep doing that thing you do,
Yeah.
and hope that a lot of people get it.
Yeah. You in the book and in the video, you have a trailer video for the book too. You talk about truth, and I, I think that as people read these stories, I mean, there's humor, there's comfort in these stories, and we're going through a pretty difficult time in the last, year, maybe even few years. So for you, where does truth lie?
It's a great question, and I think it's an important question to ask because I think first of all, truth has to align with ultimate value and our ultimate values, and we can discern what those are from our own conscience, from our own experience with other people, from reading the scriptures, from reading all of the spiritual traditions. They do align in terms of being kind to one another, loving each other, working for peace and justice and righteousness, and all of those things that are close to the heart of God. And so I would say, first of all, it's not true if it doesn't align with those important values that we know to be true. The other thing I would say is that, truth is everywhere. If God created the world and God said, you know what, this is good. This is really good. I think there's a lot of truth out there. And, if we're paying attention, if we're curious, I think a lot of truth is going to be revealed to us and we can test it, and we can seek wise counsel among those whose experiences and intellects and hearts we respect. But truth is springing up all around us. I always have this image of, after the winter has passed and the spring has come, you begin to see the blossoms come. And for me, that's truth. It's really there. Sometimes it seems like it's disappeared, but it really it's just hibernating. It's going to come back, and we're going to see it if we're looking for it.
Oh, so good, so good. I don't want to take too much of your time today, but I want to ask you just a couple of more couple more questions. Congratulations, you were married at the end of last year to your human, as you call her.
Yes, my human. It was a true miracle after decades of being just with my beast, pretty much.
And you have six dogs now, even after Willie. Is that correct?
We do. I intended to have one dog, and my beautiful bride intended to have two dogs. And dogs find me, and it's interesting because the dogs that find me often have a story,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a story that is an important one. It's an inspiring one, and I don't really go in search of them. They seem to find me. And so I pay attention when they do find me, and it's hard for me to say nope. So I end up saying, "Come on in." And we live in a very small house, and we didn't really plan it this way, but there are two humans and six dogs in the small house. And it's kind of a disaster. It sort of looks like a cyclone came through, but it is filled with love, and it's filled with more love than dog hair, and that's a lot of love.
Wow, that's saying a lot. Yeah, yeah. So I'm going to ask you a question that I think could either be like the easiest thing in the world for you to answer or the most difficult. When was a time when you were truly overwhelmed by the love of God?
Hmm. You know, a number of experiences come to mind, um, but I would have to say that the whole Hallelujah tour was like that, because here was my dog who was given 3 months to live back in November of 2016, and we got to the summer and he was still alive. I didn't know if he was going to make it. I didn't know if anybody would want to meet Willie or hear our dog stories or support animals in their hometowns. And to see people come out and share his story and share in his joy and do good, just come together, people from every walk of life, every religious tradition, didn't matter what their differences were, they came together to support Willie and to support animals in their community. And it was overwhelming. I mean, it was a grueling trip. It was really hard, and Willie did not drive, and he did not navigate, and he did not unload the car. He just worked the room, which was enough. But there were so many nights when we would go back to our hotel room, just the two of us, and the biggest smile would come over my face, and just uh, the spirit of true joy and contentment. Just thinking back on what we had experienced that day, the people we had met, and their generosity, their willingness to share their stories, their vulnerabilities, the loss of their animals, their tragedies as well as their triumphs. And it was just like a gate of openness and community had been unleashed through this beast, knowing his story and knowing what he had been through, and that he was still with us for some reason. So uh, it was like that a lot on that tour, where I was just overwhelmed with a sense of God's presence.
Wow. So other than getting the book and reading and sharing these stories, what can people do to basically to do what you did on the tour to help their local communities and the local animals? What would you suggest that they do?
Yeah, so virtually every location has a humane society, an animal shelter, and just plug in there. Plug in. If you have some extra room in your house and you need another being, another family member, you can go adopt one. But the opportunities are there, and for Willie, as a result of his good work, we started what's called the Hallelujah Foundation. and the Hallelujah Foundation, we're just kind of getting started helping animals and helping people help animals. But there are opportunities everywhere, and that was one of the beautiful things on the trip is that almost every location had partnered with their local animal shelters. Some were well established, some were just getting started. And it allowed us to give them some publicity to get their name out there and to raise some money. All the donations that we took in went to those animal shelters. Some of our book sale profits went to those animal shelters. So the opportunities are really limitless for helping our animal friends. And you never know where it might lead you. The Hallelujah Foundation has an affiliate chapter in Cape Town, South Africa.
Wow.
Oh, and that wasn't in the plan. It was through meeting some wonderful people there, them hearing about Willie and his story and what we were doing, and they said, you know what, we want to help animals in need in Cape Town. We love what you're doing. Can we just be your affiliate? I said, absolutely, you go for it. So they're doing great work with animals in Cape Town.
That is wonderful. That's wonderful. I just want to thank you so much for sharing these stories, and also for encouraging people to get animals from shelters. All my animals come from shelters.
Mm.
I don't know that I've had any as unusual as maybe you've had. Right now, I have. Well, this is okay. Maybe this is so. Right now, I have a black lab. Her name is Lemon, and her name actually has an unusual story. I was told by a person at the shelter who is British that the name Lemon means wild and crazy, and she was a young lab, so they named her that. Because at first I said, of course, is she a lemon? What's going on? I love her. She's great. She's going on 9 now, and I have never found ever a person who's either lived in Britain or is from Britain to know that story. So I don't know if that's truly the thing about her name or not. And I have a couple of cats. We gotta love our furry felines too, from shelters.
Absolutely.
And then, as I mentioned earlier, my sister has a golden retriever puppy who is all puppy brain right now, named Agape. So um, it's I think it's important. I think it's important. And they give us such love in return for just the little things we do for them. It's not much. It's not much to be kind to an animal, and they repay us so much, many times over. Um, and we all know in the creation story that God created lots of animals, but I don't know. There's just nothing like the dog.
I just, I believe God did his best work when he created those canines. I just,
Yeah.
not anything wrong with humans. Some of my best friends are humans, and I love cats too. Met some wonderful cats, and I love their unique and strong personalities. It's important. We can learn a lot from them. Uh, but dogs are just the best for me.
Yeah, they really are. Well, thank you so much for speaking with us today. Everybody, please
Thank
go ahead and
you.
grab your copy of The Last Hallelujah. It's really, really good. It's funny and, again, comforting in a lot of ways. And we appreciate it. And you've got some other books. He's written other books based on other dogs. Um, Sam, he had a dog named Sam that he wrote about. But you've also written about beer. So so there may be, in your catalog, there may be lots of books that people would be interested in checking out. Um,
Yes, yes, there was the Gospel according to Sam and the Beer
uh-huh,
Drinker's Guide to God.
uh-huh.
So, whether you like dogs, beer, whatever, there's something for you.
Just bring it back to God and I'm okay.
That's right. Absolutely. And that's what it's about.
Father Bill, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.